We are actually going to sit in this and talk about what it actually means to be emotionally safe for your partner and for yourself. What gets in the way, what's really happening inside of you when things get tense, and most importantly, how you can start doing this differently. Not perfectly, just different. My name's Helen Bass. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and in my practice, I work primarily with women of color who are navigating relationships, faith, motherhood, and personal growth. And one of the most common things I hear, whether it's in session or in comments, is the same version of this question. How do I become a safe place for my partner? How do I make them feel like they can come to me? And it's a beautiful question. The fact that you're even asking tells me something about you. It tells me you care. It tells me you want to do better. But here's what I've learned, both clinically and personally, the answer isn't what most people think it is. Most people think being a safe place is about what you say. It's about being supportive, saying the right words, being encouraging. And yes, those things do matter, but that is not where emotional safety lives. Emotional safety lives in what happens inside of you when your partner says something that triggers you. It lives in the space between what you feel and what you do with that feeling. And that's what we're going to break down today. So let's start here. What does it actually mean to be a safe place? In clinical terms, we talk about this as emotional safety. And emotional safety means that a person feels like they can be vulnerable with you without being punished for it. That's it. That's the core of it. They can say something hard. They can express a need. They can tell you something you did hurt them. And they're not going to be met with defensiveness. They're not going to be met with criticism. They're not going to be shut down or dismissed or made to feel like they're too much. Now, I want you to think about that for a second, because most of us, if someone asked us, are you a safe person? We'd probably say yes, of course. I love my partner. I want the best for them. I would never intentionally hurt them. And I believe you. I don't think most people are walking around trying to be emotionally dangerous, but intention and impact are two different things. You can love someone deeply and still be someone they don't feel being vulnerable with is safe. And that gap between your intention and their experience, that's where the work is. So let's talk about why we become unsafe. And I want to be really honest here because I think we skip over this part too quickly. The number one reason we become unsafe for our partners is not because we're bad. It's because we're having an unmanaged emotional response. Something they say hits a nerve, it activates something inside of you. Maybe it's shame, maybe it's fear, maybe it's a wound from your childhood that you haven't fully processed. And in that moment, your body takes over. This is where the nervous system comes in. And I want to spend some time here because I think this is the part most people don't understand. When your partner says something that feels threatening for you, to you emotionally, and it doesn't have to be an attack, it could just be them expressing a need or telling you they're unhappy about something, your nervous system reads that as danger. Your brain doesn't distinguish between a physical threat and an emotional one. It just knows something feels unsafe, okay? And when that happens, your body goes into one of three modes: fight, flight, or freeze. Fight looks like getting defensive, raising your voice, turning it around on them, saying things like, well, what about what you did? That's fight mode. Flight looks like shutting down, walking away, changing the subject, refusing to engage, saying, I don't want to talk about this right now, not because you need a genuine pause, but because you want to escape the discomfort. And freeze looks like going blank, checking out emotionally, being physically present, but mentally gone. Your partner is talking to you and you're just not there. Now, here's what I need you to understand. None of those responses are choices you're actively making in the moment. Consciously, they are automatic. They are nervous system responses doing what is designed to do to protect you. The problem is what protects you in the moment is the exact thing that makes your partner feel unsafe. When you get defensive, your partner hears, I can't come to you with this. When you shut down, your partner hears, my feelings don't matter to you. When you freeze, your partner hears you don't care. And none of that is what you meant. But remember intention and impact. So now we get to the real question. If these responses are automatic, how do I change them? How do I control something that happens before I even realize it's happening? And this is where I want to slow down because this is the most important part of everything I'm going to say today. You can't control your first reaction. Let me say that again. You cannot control your first reaction. Your body is going to do what it does. You're going to feel the heart rise in your chest. You're going to feel that tightness in your jaw. You're going to feel that urge to clap back or to walk away. And that's going to happen. What you can control is what comes next. In the space between your reaction and your response, that is where emotional safety is built. That is the work. That is everything. So how do you create that space? Let me walk you through what I teach in my practice. The first thing is awareness. You have to learn your body, what your body does when it's activated. And I mean specifically, not just I get upset. I need you to get more specific than that. Where do I feel it? Is it in your chest, your stomach, your hands? Does your face get hot? Does your throat tighten? Does your jaw clench? You need to become a student of your nervous system because the earlier you catch the activation, the more space you have to choose a different response. So become aware. I tell my clients your body will always tell you before your mouth does. Learn to listen to your body first. The second is to pause. And I know it sounds simple, but it is the hardest thing you'll ever do in relationship. When you feel activation, when your body is telling you something is happening, you pause. You don't respond, you don't react, you pause. And that pause might be 3 seconds, deep breath, literally saying to your partner, hold on, give me a moment. I want to hear you, but I need a second. That's not avoiding them, it's trying to regulate yourself. That is you choosing to respond instead of reacting. And your partner, even if they're frustrated in the moment, on a deeper level, they feel that. They feel the safety in that. The third thing is the question I want you to ask yourself in that pause. And it's this: is it about them or is it about me? Because so often when our partner says something that activates us, we think the feeling is about what they said. But if you really sit with it, a lot of times the intensity of what you're feeling is about something older. A wound, a pattern, something that happened long before this relationship. Your partner says, I don't feel like you listen to me. And suddenly you get flooded with all of these emotions. But the flood isn't just about the moment. The flood could be about every time someone made you feel like you weren't enough. Every time you've tried your hardest and still it wasn't good enough. Maybe that's what got activated. And when you can recognize that, when you can say, okay, this is hitting something deeper. This isn't just about what they said. You can free yourself up to actually hear your partner instead of defending yourself against your own pain. Now let's talk about the second major piece of this, and that's boundaries. I think boundaries in the context of being a safe place confuses people because they think, wait, if I'm supposed to be a safe place, doesn't that mean I should be open to everything? Shouldn't I just be able to hold space for whatever my partner brings to me? No, and I need that to be very clear. No, being a safe place does not mean being a dumping ground. Being a safe place does not mean you have no limits. Being a safe place does not mean you absorb everything your partner feels and carry it for them. That's self-abandonment, not safety. And self-abandonment will destroy you and the relationship. So when I talk about boundaries, I'm not talking about boundaries against your partner. I'm talking about boundaries for yourself. Internal boundaries, the ones that help you stay regulated and present instead of overwhelmed and resentful. And this starts with a really honest assessment. You need to ask yourself, what is my capacity right now? Because your capacity is not the same every day. Some days you can hold space for a hard conversation. Some days you've had a long day, you're exhausted, you're already carrying your own stuff, and you do not have the bandwidth to be someone else's safe place in that moment, and that's okay. But here's what most people do. They don't check in with themselves. They don't assess their capacity. Their partner comes to them and they try to show up even though they're running on empty. And what happens? They blow past their limits. And when you blow past your limit, that's when the reaction comes out. That's when you snap. That's when you say something you don't mean. That's when you shut down because you had nothing left to give, but you tried to give it anyway. So the boundary is this. I need to know my limits before I enter the conversation, not during, not after, but before. And sometimes the boundary sounds like, I really want to hear you and what you have to say. I want to give you my full attention, but right now I'm in a place where I cannot do that well. Can you come back tonight? Can we talk about this tomorrow morning? That's a boundary. And that is also safety because you are saying to your partner, you matter enough to me that I don't want to half listen. I don't want to show up depleted and give you a watered down version of my attention. You deserve better. And I'm going to take care of myself to be here for you. That is what healthy boundaries in a relationship looks like. It's not walls, it's not avoiding them. It's having the wisdom to know yourself well enough to say, this is what I can hold right now, and this is what I need to come back to. Now, what I want to talk about also is something very important that doesn't get a lot of attention, and that's the difference between being reflective and being reactive. A reactive person hears their partner and immediately responds from emotion. A reflective person hears their partner and creates space to actually process what was said before they respond. And I'll be honest with you, most of us were raised reactive. We were raised in homes where emotions were big and responses were fast, and nobody paused. Nobody said, let me think about that. Nobody modeled what it looked like to sit with something uncomfortable without immediately reacting to it. So if you're a reactive person, I don't want you to feel shame about that. That's not a character flaw. That's the conditioning that you were raised in. That's what you learned, but you're here now and you're learning something different. So being reflective means you're willing to look at yourself honestly. And that's uncomfortable. It means asking yourself questions like, why did I respond in that way? What was I really feeling underneath all the anger? What am I afraid of in this relationship? What patterns am I repeating from my family, from my past relationships? These are not easy questions, but they are the questions that change everything. Because when you become a reflective person, you stop blaming your partner for your reactions. You start taking ownership of your own feelings. And that's work. You're owning your response, owning your patterns, owning the way that you contribute to that dynamic and that shift from reactive to reflective. That's what makes you safe. Not because you never mess up. We will mess up. We will react sometimes. We will say the wrong thing. But when you come back and say, hey, I reacted and I shouldn't have, I was triggered and I took it out on you and I'm working on it, that's safety. That's that right there, that accountability, that willingness to look at yourself, not at your partner, not the need to be perfect, but you're being honest. And that's all they need. They need to know that you're doing the work. So let me give you practical things you can start doing this week because I want this to be a nice conversation. I want you to leave with something you can actually use. Number 1, start tracking your activation. This week, every time you feel yourself getting activated in a conversation with your partner, I want you to pause and notice, where did you feel it in your body? What triggered it? What was your instinct? Fight, flight, or freeze? You don't have to do anything about it yet. Just notice. Awareness always comes first. Number 2, practice the pause. Pick one conversation this week where you intentionally pause before responding, even if it's just 3 seconds. Even if it feels awkward, just pause, breathe, and then respond. See how it changes the conversation. Number 3, ask yourself the question, is this about them or is it about me? You don't have to answer that right away, but just start asking that question because asking the question interrupts the automatic reaction. It creates the space we talked about. Number 4, Check your capacity before having a hard conversation. Very important. Before you sit down and talk about something difficult, do a quick self assessment. Am I regulated right now? Am I stressed? Do I have the bandwidth for this? If the answer is no, communicate that, set the boundary, come back when you actually show up fully alive and yourself. Number 5, have a repair conversation. If there was a recent moment where you reacted instead of responding, go back to your partner or your friend, own it, say, I've been thinking about how I handled it and I don't think I showed up in the way I wanted to. That is repair. That's what builds trust over time. That's what tells your partner, I'm paying attention and I care about how it made you feel. I want to wrap it up by saying this. Being a safe place is not a destination. It's something that you achieve day by day. It's practice. It's something you do over and over imperfectly with awareness and intention. It starts with you, not with your partner, not with the relationship, with you. With your willingness to look inward, to manage your nervous system, to identify your limits, to take responsibility for your patterns. That is the real work and that is the hard work. But it's the kind of work that changes everything, not just in your relationship, but also how you show up in every area of your life. I see you, I know you're trying, and the fact that you watched this entire video tells me you're the kind of person who's willing to do the work. So keep going, keep reflecting, keep choosing responses over reaction. It matters more than you know. If this resonated with you, subscribe to this channel. It takes 2 seconds. I put out content every week for women who are serious about growth in their relationships, in their faith, in their motherhood, in their healing. And if you want to go deeper, leave a comment and tell me, what's the hardest part for you? What response do you struggle with the most? I read every comment and I'd love to hear from you. I'm Helen Bass, licensed therapist, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.